Let's talk 5 Vikings we need to see more of. All right, welcome back to the Onebar and Lupagus show. I am Lupagus, and the Minnesota Vikings are 1-1 through 2 games. And through those 2 games, certain players seem to be getting a lot of the work. And there's some who maybe aren't seeing as much action as we would like. We're going to talk about 5 guys that we'd like to see more of, especially starting this week against the Lions, but moving forward after that. Before we talk about that, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the vids. We are closing in on 7,800 subscribers. Can't wait to hit that number. And also, this video is brought to you by Lupagus Brewing Company. Hit up their facilities in New Richmond, Wisconsin, or Stillwater, Minnesota, and find their beer in a local liquor store near you. All right, so Minnesota Vikings, we said 1-1 through 2 games. But there's some players they're just not using as much as we thought they would at this point of the season. And it's game 3 now. Let's start seeing these guys a little more involved in the game plan, a little more involved in the day-to-day actions. And let's see these guys get some more snaps. These are 5 Vikings we want to see more of moving forward. And the first one, the biggest one, in my opinion, is wide receiver Adam Thielen. He finally started getting targeted second half of the Eagles game, but this guy's just been criminally underused so far. 7 receptions, 88 yards through the first 2 games. He's been targeted 11 times, which is 5.5 targets a game, which is what he averaged last year when he played in 13 games. Adam Thielen is still a very, very good receiver, great hands, some of the best route running you'll see in the entire league. If everybody's giving Justin Jefferson all this attention, this should free things up for Adam Thielen. So let's start incorporating that into the game plan. Use Jefferson as a decoy, get Thielen open, start throwing him the ball so then teams start going toward Thielen to get Jefferson even more open. I'm shocked this hasn't been used more this season so far. I really thought these two would be putting up big numbers every single week. Yes, it's still early, but Adam Thielen is definitely a guy who is getting criminally underused at this point, and I hope it changes this Sunday against Detroit, where Thielen he's usually a Detroit Lions killer, so I do expect him to get a lot of action this Sunday. But so far, Adam Thielen just needs more work, needs more targets, and needs more of a role in the Kevin O'Connell offense. Let's jump over to defense, and this is guy who has missed the first game because of injury, but our first-round draft pick, rookie Lewis Cine, finally got in the game against the Eagles. He got 15 defensive snaps, but let's see him get worked in more. We've seen Cam Bynum struggle, especially on the coverage end, giving up the big plays, the bomb that went over the top to Quez Watkins, struggling to cover tight ends. Let's see what Lewis Cine can do. And, you know, he was a first-round pick for a reason. This guy did it all. In college, he can cover, he can hit. He's got good ball skills, and there's a reason the Vikings got him where they did, and they wanted this guy in the first round. They traded down, were able to get him at 32, and now we need to see why. And maybe you mix him up more. I know Harrison Smith may not be playing due to the concussion, so that does definitely open the door for Lewis Cine to have his first start. But even if Bynum's playing, even if Smith's active, let's get Cine more involved in the game plan. Let's use 3 of these guys. Let's mix it up, get creative, get nutty, figure out a way to use and utilize our first-round pick, because this is a talented football player, and damn it, we need to see it, and we need to see it now. Speaking of needing to see it, let's see some Kenny Ngwangu on offense. This guy is so explosive, absolutely explosive. You give him the ball, he can be one cut and gone. All we've really seen him do so far this year is return kicks, and he hasn't got a whole lot of chances at that. I want to see a backfield where they're using Cook and Ngwangu, using Madison and Ngwangu, having 2 guys back there, not letting the defense have any idea who's going to touch the football. But I mean, just especially with Ty Chandler on injured or not on, just being inactive, let's have an explosive player like Kenny Ngwangu available and give him a couple touches a game and see what he can do with those. Because again, if this guy gets free, ain't nobody catching Ngwangu. So I'd like to see him used a little bit more in the offense moving forward. I think we can all agree on that one. Let's go to couple defensive ones here to end this thing up. But look at it on the defensive side of the ball. D-line, the depth overall isn't great. James Lynch has 34 defensive snaps so far. I don't know why James Lynch is even on this team. You trade for Ross Blacklock. Let's start using Ross Blacklock. Let's start using the guy you gave a pick for, you cut Armon Watts for. He's only had 15 snaps so far. Why did we bring in Ross Blacklock if we're not going to use him? I mean, supposedly this guy's better. I think he's supposed to be a better pass rusher than his run defender. But Blacklock, I mean, he's a high second-round pick. There's talent here. There's ability here. Clearly, the Vikings saw something in him to bring him here. You cut Armand Watts, who was in line to be a starter. Not that he's the greatest player out there, but you keep an inferior player like James Lynch, and you start playing him as much as you are. It's time to get Ross Blacklock on the field, see what he can do, because he sure as heck can't be any worse than the ginger snap, James Lynch. And the last guy I want to see on the field is linebacker Brian Asamoah. He's had 0 defensive snaps so far. He's played some special teams. But this kid is electric. He flies the football. He hits. I mean, really, when I say he flies the football, this guy covers a ton of ground, and he covers it quickly. He's definitely an exciting player. He's a spark plug. He's a guy who can make a big hit, get everybody else fired up. Something the Vikings definitely needed during that Eagles game, especially in the first half when they were struggling to stop anything. Look at Jordan Hicks. Yes, Jordan Hicks is piling up the tackles, but his coverage is horseshit. His PFF numbers are in the toilet. If Jordan Hicks doesn't start doing a little bit better as far as the coverage goes, I think Asamoah could see the field very, very soon. But why not rotate him in a little bit? Just get him some snaps, get his feet wet, let him get used to some NFL offenses and see what he can do. I mean, this kid was one of the standouts in camp and in the preseason. He's a 3rd-round pick. Let's get him on the field. Let's start using him. Let's start getting him acquainted to the NFL speed, because he is going to be a guy who is going to be manning the middle sooner than later here for Minnesota Vikings. So let's start using this guy. So those are 5 players I'd like to see get more action here moving forward. Let me know in the comments if you guys have some more that you'd like to see get used, and maybe just some guys who aren't being used enough through the first 2 games. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to keep on checking back. We'll be, obviously, on Saturday, have the big game prediction video. Talk a little more Vikings-Lions tomorrow, and until then, keep your skull in your hole.